Thank you for tuning into our podcast. We are coming to you from South Hadley, Massachusetts. I am your host, Carrie, and joining me is Holyoke's very own local historian and creator of the Historical Tours of Greater Holyoke, Robert Cahoon. He offers both public and private tours, as well as presentations of the local canal systems, reservoirs, cemeteries, and churches, as well as various parks and streets in Holyoke, South Hadley, and Chicopee, Mass. Now you actually lead these tours and give these presentations yourself, is that correct?
Yes, and this mill is not in a very obvious place, but once in a while we go by it.
And today he'll be educating us on the Norman Paper Mill. So where is the Norman Paper Mill?
The Norman Paper Mill has always been the juncture between the second and third level canal. It uses officially water from the second level canal at the very end of it. And it's in a place that it's at the very end of Appleton Street. Appleton Street goes over a bridge over the second level canal, and it keeps going right to the Connecticut River. No one goes down there, but there it is. It's the last possible place taken up on the second level canal, eastern section. And so during this presentation, we'll talk about where it was, about its history, and then what production was like in the mill. It was different from other paper mills, and what's happened to the Norman in recent years. So this mill, I hope you go visit it because it was made by two brothers that made a lot of mills around Holyoke, and its mill has the year 1910 on it, but this company was actually made in 1891, and it started out in a smaller building at the same location that was wooden. That was taken off, and they made this big, medium-sized one. And so hopefully you get to visit and see why it looks different.
And what is the history of the Norman Paper Mill?
Okay, it was made by David and Ashley Tower, who made a lot of the paper mills around Holyoke, especially the mills owned by the Newton brothers. And they always made paper mills look gorgeous. They always put a tower on it. And the reason why their last name was Tower, and they love to put mansard towers on these mills. And this Norman one has one. And it has an Italianate look to the outside of it also. And the front of it is very obvious, you go near it, but there's a back that's extensive. It's like a linear mill that goes in a zigzag fashion towards the back. And that's very unique for paper mills, most of which work production from the top of a fourth floor downwards. This was only a two-floor mill in some segments and a one-floor mill in other segments. So it's not very big. But it was made by the Newton brothers, and that's important because they love to make their paper mills. This is their last one. It was made for James Newton, who made a lot of paper mills, and it was developed in order to get specialized paper, and he ended up making a lot of different kinds of paper production, which is unusual. Usually they concentrated on cotton-based paper, and here he concentrated on chemically based paper, cotton-based paper, and wood pulp-based paper. He did all of them.
And so quickly before we continue with the rest of our interview, just to fill our listeners in, if you want to find out any more information or sign up for any of his various tours, you can check out his website at holyokecanaltour.org. And there he has both various videos of his stops during his tour and also historic photos of the sites throughout as well. And if you're interested in setting up a private tour, you can email him directly at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And they are perfect for fun and educational outdoor activities for the whole family or for your group parties, especially those special occasions and get-togethers. And they are also good just for getting outdoors for the day. So getting back to our interview, what was production like at the Norman?
All right, the Norman was segmented into 15 different sections linearly, and so you start in the back with a lot of storage of either the wood, both the wood pulp and the cotton rags, and you'd have pick rooms back there, and you'd also have a chemical room off the side. The chemical room was called the lime room because they were using this calcium oxide lime to put into the paper. And then it would come linear forward to it. First you have the pulp-up room, and then you have the addition of the engine, which is the filler of it that glues the ingredients together. Then you'd have the drying room, and you go linear, you're about midway up, and you'd have the calendared room the cutter room, and then you'd have the administration in the room which would then make the final finishing touches, the lines, the insignias, so forth. And then they would sell from the front. So it was very different from most paper mills around the world. It was a linear mill, but it was in the shape of an S, and so that made it very different. But if you look at it, it's just a gorgeous mill in the last part of the second level canal.
And what happened to the Norman in recent years, and what will happen there in the future?
Okay, at some point it was bought out by the Holyoke Water Power Company, which owned the canal system. They took it over, and I think they rented out space to other mills around Holyoke on a has-need basis. And that lasted through the 40s and 50s, maybe into the 60s. And then I think there's been small production in there. And about 10 years ago, one of the marijuana companies tried to grow marijuana in there. It was one of the first ones to do that. And they weren't successful, were not successful, and all the other ones were. And thus they couldn't even pay rent. And so it had a brief stint as a marijuana mill. I hope in future years that the building gets used. A used building is great because it's able to stabilize itself, not deteriorate, and thus this pretty little mill will keep going. Now it's not in a great place. Very few people know it's there. It's back on Water Street, which is far away from any retail, and it's small, so maybe it's good for small industry, but hopefully it'll get used and get preserved, and so we'll have this building in sight. Now, it has a lot of things going for it. There's a lot of space to it. It's near the Connecticut River. It's on a dilapidated part of the canal, a half-mile section of the canal that even the water is gone from. So, it has pros and cons going from it. But hopefully, maybe the energy company can come in, since it's near the river. Maybe some administration can come in, our storage company. Who knows what could happen.
I thank you, Robert, for educating us on your tours. I want to thank our listeners again for tuning in. And you can tune into a large selection of our other podcasts and much more on his website. That's HolyokeCanalTour.org. And again, you can email him directly for private tours or any other inquiries at bobcat4214, capital B, at yahoo.com. And be sure to check out his upcoming 2024 season tours and more as they become available. Thank you for tuning in.